Hey, welcome back to my series of conversations with friends. And this one takes on a special meaning for me because Brian and I have known each other in a variety of contexts over quite a number of years. I think when I first worked with his parents as a realtor, it's quite likely that Brian was either just finishing high school or maybe was at U of M. His
Sounds
haircut was a
accurate.
bit different back then, as
Mhm.
I remember. Um, but it's interesting how people are brought together for what appears to be one reason and then evolves into something a whole lot more. So, Brian Relph, welcome to Conversations with Friends. Um, really kind of fun to do this one with you, I think.
Thank you, Eric. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. I think, those times you were speaking of were quite a long time ago. That was 20 years or more. But I just love that our friendship has grown into all these new areas that, I may not have even been aware of at that time. So, um, you've been you've been such a great support to me and a great cheerleader and encourager over these last 5 years. So, um,
Those are some of the founding principles of what I really am trying to do
mhm.
with my practice. So you have recently sort of reformulated and relaunched, and I believe
Yes,
I believe you are now known as Soul Growth Coaching.
yes, sir. Soul growth coaching.
Talk to
Yes.
me a little bit about what your foundation is with that and the modalities you work with.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent question. Um, the goal, the stated mission of my work is to support the emergence and development of the true self.
Ooh.
So, yeah, so the idea being that you have that divine essence within you, and we have all these layers of conditioning and shadow material that get piled on top of it. And so, as we begin to peel back those layers, your divine essence can really begin to express itself, and that really results in an experience of authenticity, of joy, of real presence, and I mean obviously confidence, because if you know who you are, then it makes it a whole lot easier to move in the world.
Well, that seems really timely from what I see with the people that I interact with in my practice. I don't know that I've ever felt a time where there were more people seeking, more people looking at their lives going, gosh, there's got to be something more, but I don't know where to look for it. I don't know what to do with it. So
Exactly.
along you come with exactly that sort of coaching and help. I know that we did a thing a week or so ago, or we did
Hmm.
part of a thing. It was quite involved, so we've got
Yeah.
that on a to be continued, um, and that was a soul contract
Correct.
evaluation. Talk a
Correct.
little bit
Yeah.
about that because I found that to be. I don't have any hair, but if I did, it would have blown my hair back.
Well, I don't either, so we're in the same boat
There we
there.
go.
Uh, um, yeah, so soul contract is one of the modalities that I use within the context of the greater work that I do. And I'll just say before I speak about soul contract, the context of the work that I do is really to hold space for people to unpack and to really peel back those layers in their own time and in their own way. And so trusting that my clients know exactly what they need somewhere within them, even if their minds aren't quite up to speed on it yet.
Mm.
Um, and so, in a lot of ways, I try to get out of the way, and I let them navigate this themselves, and I support them through that process. Um, and it can be so useful to have these tools that really give us some clarity, that challenge us to look at things that we haven't been able to see clearly, or that we haven't been willing to look at yet. So a soul contract is based on the spelling of your birth name, or essentially the sound of your name.
Hmm.
The idea being that the sound, the words that we speak in the world, the sounds that we make have a resonance, they have an energy to them. And so if you think of your name as a kind of spell that incorporates or expresses your soul essence at this time in your evolution.
Wow, who knew?
So right? Yeah. And so it uses ancient Hebrew, and we translate the name through Hebrew to become numbers. So then it becomes a kind of numerology experience.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So then the numbers are distributed on a chart, and then those numbers are attributed to a certain energy that is related to that corresponding letter in the Hebrew alphabet. So it's based on Kabbalah, the ancient Jewish mysticism,
Okay.
and relates to some the things you would see in the Tree of Life. And those same 22 energies are also contained in the major arcana of the tarot. So we have these sort of overlapping modalities that really are fun to play with. And so I also read tarot. I've been doing that for 15 years. And so these all just sort of blend together nicely, even within the context of one session sometimes. And so what you would see in your soul contract is you would notice the karmic energies you brought with you into this life that were essentially challenges or lessons that you set out to learn in this life that you had not yet mastered. You'd also see in your chart some talents, some lessons that you have already mastered and that you've decided to want access to in this life in order to help you with your challenges. And then you would also see areas of goals that were set for you, where things that you sort of want to accomplish in the world. And that's where we find our real sense of fulfillment in life, is by taking a good look at those and leaning into those spaces. So all of it requires growth and willingness to look at our stuff, you know.
Gosh, that is sort of the magic key to almost everything, isn't it?
I would have to say so, yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
The other thing that occurred to me as you were explaining it, but also in my experience with you delivering it, was that when you look at it from that context, it really does shine a light in a different direction on the life you're living. And I just have to believe that I haven't fully digested it yet, partially because we're not all the way through it, but I'm a guy that runs around in my head for a while and then comes out my mouth. Sometimes better prepared than others, it turns out. But just the whole being able to see yourself in an appreciative light, and having that contextual understanding of, oh, well, that's why all that was going on. It's because, number one, I signed up for it.
Yes.
And now it all makes sense. And so the ability to step out of that need to beat ourselves up, to see ourselves as less than we truly are, it would seem like that could pull back that veil a bit and let reality shine through a bit. Is that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because any of the challenges that show up in your chart or in your life in general, I would have to say, they're showing the shadow side of something, of an energy that, if transmuted or worked with skillfully, can turn into its gift, can turn into something light and beautiful and available to really be of assistance in the world with.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's empowering, I would say, because there's no victim space available there. It's really us owning our stuff and owning what we chose.
No victim, no blaming. Yeah. Wow. Could that be required for like membership in the human race, do you think?
Boy, that maybe graduate level. I don't.
Yeah, probably.
Doesn't seem to be required to show up here, but
okay. So, but you also do some other things, because I know I've seen that you are teaching Qigong.
Yes, sir. I've been teaching Qigong for 6 years now.
Okay.
And
is that sort of where you began? I mean, you said you've been reading cards for 15.
Right.
Was the Qigong like the next step that sort of unfolded and shoved you in a direction?
I'd say in terms of how my path unfolded, this intermediary step was getting into Buddhist meditation, insight meditation, and really getting quiet with the self, with all the voices and the churning that happens in the mind, and beginning to get a sense then of the body. And then there's a meditation center in Northern California called Spirit Rock that I was attending a lot of retreats at, silent retreats. And they were also offering Qigong.
Oh, okay.
And so I met my teacher there at Spirit Rock. He was offering a teacher training, and I said, absolutely, I'm in. So that became then an experience of really being in the body, an embodiment of the spirit, or another way to say that would be to get in touch with the energy body.
Okay.
That which is not the physical, but is still a part of us. So, and Qigong is a way to create health in the physical body by creating health in the energy body. It's also a way to release or transmute stuck energies in the body, the same way that, you would use acupuncture for a lot of these things.
Okay.
And yet Qigong is traditionally in Chinese medicine, you would ask someone to do Qigong sort of every day, and then acupuncture only when needed, as a sort of a emergency sort of remedy. So it's almost it's a maintenance kind of thing in some ways.
And Qigong is a do it for yourself modality.
Yes, sir.
Versus going to a practitioner who does acupuncture. So for those people that are looking for that self-contained process, that sounds pretty amazing.
And just the same way that you are always teaching new Akashic Records classes to new students who are coming in, I'm also very much interested in empowering people with their own tools, to have their own tools and to do their own work, because if we're relying on someone else for every single step of the way, it's going to take a real long time. And nobody wants to be dependent. I don't want anyone to be dependent on what I offer. I want
totally agree
to set people free to do their work.
Yeah.
Qigong was one of those things, one of those tools that's been helpful for me and that I offer to other people as well. And the beauty is, with any of these things, I live in Asheville, but no one needs to live in Asheville to do Qigong with me or to get a soul contract reading. We meet here on Zoom. That's where most of my clients are. And so that's one of those miracles of the 21st century that I do
exactly
have to.
Right. Because you're in Asheville right now and I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So
yeah.
And we do a lot of conversations on Zoom.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
I wanted to tell you about one more modality, then I want to ask you about what you're offering these days.
Okay.
If I may. So one more tool that I really love that is really about empowering people is EFT. Just short for the emotional freedom technique, otherwise known as tapping. So we're tapping various points on the body while we work with challenges, with phrases, with stuck energy, with trauma. And you would be so amazed at how it releases these things that are stuck in the energy body, and then allows the consciousness then also to be free of it. And it is highly effective. And the beauty is, again, it can be done on Zoom like this, and it can be taken with you. I have information that I give to my clients, and I ask them to take it home and continue to do the work themselves. So it's one of those places where you can see, like in a soul contract, where you would find you'd see a particular challenge in your life. Well, yes, I have a hard time speaking my truth because I feel scared about how I'm going to be received. Something like that might show up in a soul contract. So then you can take that awareness, that understanding, and bring EFT to it, where you can release those fears. You can release what might be underneath there causing those fears. So I'm finding it to be a nice system to bring all those things together and support people that way. So,
well, I believe that we're each drawn to a combination of modalities, and then our challenge is to blend them in a way that it becomes, essentially, this becomes the Brian Relph method.
Yes.
There's probably nobody else on the planet that is stirring up the same stew of modalities that you do. But when you look at the way our bodies, our minds, our spirits, our energy are all, it's totally interconnected. It makes perfect sense to do that in the way that you're doing it. Not that it needs to make sense to me, of course, but it does, it turns out. So,
yeah. I think, every modality I offer to clients are modalities that I've used for myself. They're tools that have helped me along the way, to help me to heal, help me to release, help me to open, etc. So I wouldn't offer anything that I have not spent a lot of time with
Yeah.
on my own, because that's really the proving ground for me, and how one can really learn and embody a practice or a tool. So
Very cool.
um, may I ask you then, so your particular stew of tools and modalities, I'm mostly familiar with your Akashic Records work, but I'd love to hear about what the whole picture looks like.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that the first modality that I added to the toolbox was, other than just life and Silva method, it was probably Reiki. And I got all three levels. So I'm Reiki master. I could be Reiki teacher, but that isn't something that has called to me. But I do Reiki every night, all night. It's the last thing I do before I put on my headset to listen to whatever meditation I'm listening to as I go to sleep at night. Um, and I open up the Reiki energies, call in. I call in everybody because I figure the more the merrier. Ask that they use my physical body as a grounding point for healing energy into our world. And
Beautiful.
I normally have a list of people that have requested specific uh, Reiki energy healing work to be done. But then I also will throw in some more global things.
Mhm.
Oddly, it seems like every night I send a fairly good pile into Washington, D.C. and
Mhm.
Lansing, Michigan, and a few other spots around the world where things are bubbling over. Like what you do, it, the inability to quantify the impact can
Mhm.
be a little twitch producing. I mean, how do I mean, there's no way for me to know that if there's an outcome I'm headed for in the Reiki realm and the person gets some relief from their symptoms or whatever it is, there's no way for me to know quantifiably that that was me
Right.
or that was us more
Mhm.
accurately.
Mhm.
Um, but I believe in it because I have had that same personal experience with it.
Yes.
Had a woman reach out to me a week or two ago. She boards a horse at our place, and she knows that I do Reiki because I've worked on her horse multiple times. And he really likes a little Reiki when he can get some.
Mhm.
And but her mother was experiencing really bad restless leg syndrome and hadn't
Mhm.
slept in 3 nights. And so Heather reached out to see if I could do some Reiki to help with that. And so that was on Friday, I think. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter.
Mhm.
Sunday, I sent her a text and I said, tonight will be the third night of Reiki. Hope that your mother is feeling some relief. And she forwarded a text that her mother had sent her. And
Mhm.
she said, last night I woke up when the treatment was going on. It felt like the feathers of angels.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
restless leg was gone. And she
Wow.
slept soundly through the night, got up and mowed the grass and, just had kind of a normal day.
You gotta like that. Wow.
I mean, you can't deny it even if you want to. So
Yes.
so
Yes.
that's the Reiki part. And as you said, I do a lot of work in the Akashic record.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of information on my website about Akashic records. So I'm not going to go into great detail about it,
Mhm.
except to say, if you're interested, reach out. I teach classes regularly.
Mhm.
Um, but it's the history of our souls for all time and all space.
Mhm.
And so it's just a treasure trove of information that can
Yeah.
provide that same contextual, where are the root causes, why is this happening, all of that sort of thing.
Mhm.
I do an awful lot of psychic fairs and expos now, and I'm very often the only person in the room doing Akashic records. And
Mhm.
I have a lot of people that come for readings that are just like, I've always wanted an Akashic record reading, but I didn't know where to find
Mhm.
one. And all false modesty aside, I've blown hair back on a lot of people with the information that I've been
Yes.
privileged enough to get.
Well, that's been true. That's been true for me. I mean, I can say that sometimes, the recent session we did, where you gave me a reading, and there were some phrases in there that connected dots in my mind that I had never connected before. And there were some things that were offered. Like, I think you offered me to continue to shed those dead feathers and whatnot that were still hanging on. And I tell you what, not by coincidence at all, I spent that next Saturday night dancing, and I think I got most of it. Um,
I
so
love it.
yeah, so it's just what I love about the Akashic Records, as the way that you deliver it and the way that I've always experienced it, is that it can seem like it's such a mystical thing, and yet it's also so useful and so practical in the moment. It seems like what's delivered is always exactly what's needed in the moment, which of course we always trust anyway. But and the other thing I would say about it, the way that I receive it from you, Eric, is there's such love and compassion with it. I mean, it's always such a gentle, like, there can be a firm swat on the butt when needed, and it's always done lovingly, no matter what it is. And
Yeah.
so, when I've needed to be picked up, we all feel lost at times. We all wonder, what the heck am I doing here? It has been such a resource, such a blessing in my life.
Thank you. Well, I'm, as you and I have talked regularly, I'm honored whenever I'm allowed to be the part of somebody's journey. And if I can provide some insight and some information that's helpful, gosh, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then the bigger, probably the largest part of my practice is lifestyle engineering and hypnotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's limitless. Any sort of behavioral pattern that people are wanting to change, whether it's weight loss or smoking or chewing tobacco or sleeping better or academic performance, really, again, you come down to that whole body, mind, spirit thing, which is limitless.
Yeah.
But like you, the whole goal of everything I do is to take people, meet them where they are right now, and help them to discover who they really are, who they came here to be, get some of the other people voices and old programming that was never valid, but it was what people did to help their kids grow up to be good, productive members of society or good members of the church or to be compliant and whatever. But to take them from where they are and help them to move beyond, and get into that life that they actually came here to live, where there's some juiciness and some joy.
Yeah.
And gosh, what an honor it is to be a part of that.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I love seeing people grow through this work, and love seeing the changes on their face, when they show up and, wow, you look completely different today.
Yeah.
To see that light, joy there.
To see that light bulb go on.
Yeah. And stay on.
Yeah. And the dots getting connected. It's a marvelous thing. So for you then, it sounds like a broad base of ages, backgrounds, religions. It doesn't really matter. Just anybody who is feeling called to step a little higher in their life.
Yes, exactly. I work from folks from anywhere to say 25 to end of life. And I have clients all throughout that range. The things that young folks are wrestling with and the questions they're asking are in some ways different than the folks who are at middle age and then the folks who are later in life. So the themes might be a little different, but we're all human, right? We're all trying to understand ourselves. We're all trying to grow and to heal. So I would say that my focus is on people with unmet spiritual needs.
Okay.
And that is also a large portion of people
Yeah.
in the world, because so many of us aren't going to church anymore. And I would argue that we still have spiritual needs.
Yep.
And so in some ways, we may not have that solid spiritual community that our grandparents might have had. And we may or may not even want what they had. But here we are now, we still have needs.
Yep.
So in some ways, what I can create with people is a spiritual community of two, where we rest in our awareness of our divine selves, our awareness of our interaction with the intelligence that is the universe. And so that can be languaged in any number of ways. Part of my training is an interfaith spiritual direction. So that
Okay.
can cover anything from atheism to Christianity to Buddhism, etc. So most of my clients identify as spiritual but not religious, which I also identify as. So, yeah. It's in particular when I focus, for example, on folks in midlife. Most of us at that age are going through what we might call the midlife transition or the midlife crisis, and I think of that experience as a spiritual sort of initiation.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be thought of as a crisis, but it often can feel that way. And so, having been through this experience myself, I feel uniquely skilled or gifted or prepared to then help other people with it. So that's where we begin to examine, the things that worked for us in the morning of our life. So what Carl Jung refers to it as, the morning of our life. Once we get to the afternoon of our life, those things don't make sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Those ways of being, the ways that we thought about ourselves aren't true anymore. And so many of them have to be discarded. And if we can do that in a skillful way, if we can really do it with intention and awareness, what we can create for the second half of our lives can be so miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a complete shit show like it has been for so many people over the years. And there's going to be some turmoil, of course, but
of course,
we can
but manage turmoil.
Yeah,
as
and
opposed to a red Corvette and a hot blonde, and everybody in town talking about what an old fool you are.
Yes, exactly.
Not speaking from personal experience in that regard. Just saying.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I certainly have made my shit show moves over the years, as
Yeah.
we all have. That's part of being human, though.
Indeed, and we have to have a sense of humor about it, and having someone to help you have some perspective on all those things is so helpful. So and tell me then, who is your ideal client? Do you have a
same people you're dealing with, pretty much? I mean, a lot of it. Overweight people. I mean, that's huge, because I mean, literally and figuratively, but but there's so much of our self-concept tied into all of that. And so people come in just feeling so bad about themselves, and their misconception is that they're fat and they're lazy and they don't deserve to be loved, and blah blah, all of those sorts of things, and none of them are true. I do find that there's a significant percentage, and I don't keep data, so I'm not going to quote specific numbers, but a high percentage of people that come to me for weight loss have at some point in their lives experienced some sort of physical or sexual abuse.
Yes.
And the weight, of course, then is the perceived buffer to the world.
Indeed.
Which, it doesn't really work that way, but it's a real common method of dealing with it.
Sure.
But like you, the whole goal is to not treat the symptom. People show up for symptoms. I'm too fat. I don't want to smoke anymore. Whatever it is, but excavating down through the layers to get to that causative factor. Western medicine doesn't do that so much. They're primarily about treating symptoms and creating drug customers for life, apparently. But the real work gets done when you find the causation and then work to reset that.
Yeah. You
And
get to the root
it's
of it.
magical. It's just magical.
Mm,
So, yeah.
mm. Fun. Um, I wanted to ask you one more thing about something we've never done before. But have you ever done dream work? I know that was a very non-sequential question,
That's
but
okay.
yeah, that's one of the other things I do with people.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So have we ever done that before? I don't think we have.
we haven't.
Yeah.
I used to keep a dream journal,
Mm-hmm.
and I found that once I started writing them down, I remembered them night by night, where, prior to
Yeah.
that, and since I quit, I don't.
Sure.
Um, no, I'm not. It sounds very intriguing, though.
Yeah. One of the things I love about it is that it's a direct connection to the psyche in that, unmediated in a way. Like, um, so it's a power that we have within ourselves all the time, that our higher self, or our divine self, our soul, is sending us messages every night, and we may not get them all, but there's a way of sort of decoding that language, because of course the language of dreams is just so kind of unusual to our
Mm-hmm.
waking life mind. But that can be, in some ways, for some folks who may not be interested in tarot, or some of the more esoteric things. For some of my clients, dream work is a real sweet entry into the mystical
Okay.
space, So I'm beginning to do classes on that, and
Oh, cool.
offer sessions doing that kind of work too. So
And you do those online as well on Zoom?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So for those of you watching, already Brian's contact information is probably crawled by on the screen, as has mine. At the end, there'll be a slide with his information, a slide with my information. So if you want to make contact, you'll be able to do that real easily. It's
Yeah.
been delightful for me to watch you over the last 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been,
Hmm.
as you have stepped in, stepped up, have grown.
Hmm.
I don't often see people that are as dedicated to their own process as I believe you to be from what you've shown me. I know that every time we talk, we exchange Akashic record readings, and now the soul contract reading. I walk away just in awe of your skills, your gifts, your manner of delivery, your connection to everything.
Yeah.
And it's really been fun for me to watch that,
Mm.
and so keep up the good work, man.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. It's such an honor to see and be seen in this way. I think it's so important for us to walk the talk.
Yeah,
Because if we're not doing that, then we can cause a whole lot of harm in the world. So
yeah, yeah.
that's my number one job, is to make sure that I'm doing my work here, or else I can't really help anyone else. So
Very cool.
yes, sir.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank everybody that's watching this. Feel free to share it wherever you share things. The whole idea is there's good work being done in the world, and there are a lot of people that are looking for these sorts of things. And so that's the basis on which Conversations with Friends began. And if you know of someone that might be a good conversation for me to have, I'll be happy to develop the friendship after the conversation takes place. So thanks very much.